Today's Wednesday. We just had our first ayahuasca ceremony last night. Began with us going into the Maloka, sitting down, getting to our place. The maestros, the dons, did the opening crown chakra ritual by tapping on our heads with some leaves and blowing mapacho to the crown of our heads. They went around the room. I was first up. I sat to the right of Selva. So I went to the altar and I saw my bowl of ayahuasca in front of me. It's a brown black liquid. Smells a lot like charcoal and turpentine. Set my intention of both my hands around the cup. My intention thus far has been to offer myself as a vessel in which to communicate offer myself as a vessel in which to communicate or illuminate the things in my life that are holding me back from realizing my true potential and bringing the most good, bien de todos, that I possibly can with my life and who I am. I came into it with a lot of expectations. I thought that I didn't have a lot of expectations. I continually worked on trying not to have expectations, but I kept coming back to how strong my expectations indeed were. I drank this cup. While I was setting my intention, I noticed that I kept on using the phrase I. And I fought with it all night. It was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to go through in the moment. Just gasping for any level of semblance of self, any stability whatsoever, any sense of local connection to my own sense of self. I was gasping for this sense of concreteness, despite getting into the situation and asking for this experience, and just kept grappling with this. You want to be here, you want this, and at the same time being pushed to my psychological limit, thinking that I wanted, why is this happening to me? Why are you doing this to me? What is it? And then I kept trying to return to my intention. And I'm just always so seeking recognition, seeking acknowledgement, seeking ownership isn't the right word, but seeking responsibility, credit, participating, continued relentless focus on commercialization of the experience and the next thing. What was next? What was next? How was I turning this into something else that was of value as opposed to just listening? Kept coming back to the surrender, the patience, the surrender, the courage. Rattlesnake or sky, who cares? Whatever it is, fucked me up. I drink this concoction. It tastes bad, but not as bad as I thought. The other thing is no expectations. You're not supposed to have expectations, which is something I continually battled with. I didn't smoke any mapacho last night. I was too afraid. I drink the cup. I go back to my seat. It is sitting relatively easily in my stomach. I'm not feeling like I have to puke immediately, which then gives me pause because everybody's always like puking, diarrhea, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't really feeling any of it. Had this taste of soot in my mouth. Soot and paint thinner. And I sit there. They go around the rest of the room. Everybody's doing their own thing. I go up and I grab a mapacho because I forgot to get mine after I take my cup. I'm supposed to drink, set the intention, drink, grab a mapacho, go home. Go home to your... Sit there in patience, just waiting. Have inclinations and put my eye mask on. I try and get comfortable. I'm still seated at this point because I think I'm going to need to vomit at any moment. And I don't actually vomit until like 2 hours into it. So I'm sitting there cross-legged. Other people start to stir. My gentleman next to me, Kyle, he vomits pretty early on. I'm still not quite feeling anything yet, and I begin to feel my hands and my fingertips and my face pulse get really hot, sort of like, and that's when it's really starting to come on. I'm closing my eyes, I have the sleep mask on, and I'm looking at these things that appear to be in my mind, these shapes that if I pay attention to them slowly, they would morph over time into a different thing. The one that was scary for me is I kept seeing these white triangles, and then my mind would say those must be teeth, and they would become teeth. They would become a mouth. And then when it would become a face, I would try and push it off. I saw many a different faces or outlines of faces. In the beginning, it was just black with these faces, and More like geometric faces, a lot like the polygon Pokemon, like that sort of thing coming at me. It's starting to get really intense. And I'm still struggling with like my bladder and not puking and worried I'm gonna shit myself, which is really a dumb thing, but that's where I was. It's not a dumb thing. It's just where you were. And then I go into this world, this place becomes presented to me, which is which looks a lot like a white and yellow alternating pattern tile floor, essentially around everything. And within this tiled floor are shapes, a face, and I am trying to hold on and not lose myself, because I feel as if I'm being, I don't know if attacked is the right word, but I feel as if I'm being confronted, really. And I start to seek things to hold on to that help me not lose myself in this alternate world. So I'm trying to call for the time. I'm trying to recall that I'm laying in this spot, that I am in Peru, that I am Adam in some regard, and that I still have a connection to what my previous conception was of life, or these grounding components that help me not think that I'm being completely absolved, that I'm being dissipated. And that was truly the struggle for the remaining part of the night, is me struggling for a foothold. Even though what I asked for was to not be limited. I asked, my intention was to illuminate the things that make me hold on to some semblance, that hold me back. And the crazy thing is, all of those things that were holding me back were the components of what I think make up my personality. Work, relationships, being a person, having a name. The Dons are singing. The silence is terrifying. The singing is comforting. I'm thrashing about. At this point, I'm not in the seated position anymore. I'm doubled over. No, I'm in the fetal position, hugging a pillow, and rocking back and forth to the sound of the music, because the movement of my body is helping me feel connected to being alive. Because I felt like I was slipping into a place where I didn't exist. And that was scary. And so I was grappling for something that I could continue to keep with me so that I could be pulled back, so that I could recognize that this is temporary. So that was my main struggle, and I feel like I came to a few conclusions. Namely, one about me continuing to call out, "Where are you, ayahuasca? Mother ayahuasca, what are you?" All I see is myself. All I see is me everywhere. I see me doing things. I see me thinking. I see the world reacting. But I feel the total control. It doesn't feel separate. It feels like me. I think that I have this expectation that it's going to be like Mother Ayahuasca is this being. And I could not find any separation between myself and anything else. For me, it was just all me. And that was terrifying, because here all of these things are that I think are me, that are scary. That I have little control over, or I have a relationship with. Kept on coming back to my intention. What am I here to learn? And I fought with the answers that were immediately available to me for a while, versus thinking that there was some deeper meaning, thinking that there was something else that I should have been finding. And then me not being satisfied with my existing experience and trying to fight it, as opposed to taking things and building off of them. And so I really was pushed to the edge, and I was struggling with the edge and fought and held on. I wanted it to stop. I was afraid. Many a time I thought about calling Selva, asking for Don Rubber to lower the intensity, but I didn't. I continued working with it in my own way. Eventually it died down a bit. I went to the bathroom, I opened my eyes, I stumbled through the Maloka into the bathroom, I went pee, came back in, laid back down, tried to get back into that visual space. I did not get back into this yellow and white checker spot room where there was this somewhat of a talking skull, but made up of different component parts, not like a white skull, like a technicolor, but not technicolor, like a techna, like made up of weird, a red eye, like it looked like within each one of those things I probably could have dove into, but I didn't dive in. I didn't dive in. I moved away. And then I tried to move back in and tried to understand, why am I here? Why am I doing this? What is there for me to learn? then I puke. It hurts. It's not pleasant. I feel moderate relief, but hardly any relief, because it is gut-wrenching. It is a deep puke. And in one instance, there's this crazy time where I feel like the bottom of my stomach retches out like a piece of something and moves it around a different part of my body, and then I puke that up. Just as I was leaving, I was tempted to look in the puke dish, and only for a second did I flash my light on it, and it was like it looked as if it was some mixture of like motor oil and black spots, like black chunks, with like a weird purplish tinge. But I didn't want to look too much at it because I was afraid of what I might see. Or might not see. Because the expectations that I have around what my experience was going to be like were just so fucking wrong. And so far off that I just struggled to maintain some level of sense of who I was and what was happening around me. And the questions I asked, ayahuasca has a hardcore ability to stray. Your mind can just go, and you can just be gone on a thought pattern that is totally not the reason that you're taking the drug, it's the medicine. But you can be obsessed with a particular thought pattern and be lost in, like, global politics. And here's me thinking about global politics with my ayahuasca brain happening. And that was a tremendous waste of time, I thought. Or it felt like it, because I didn't care. I didn't need to be there for that. I wanted to be there for me, and what the intention was that I set. And when I kept coming back to this intention, it wasn't offering what I thought it would offer. What it was saying was hard for me to accept and to realize until later. And what I realized at the end was that the intention that I set was to be a vessel in which to act to show me. And I offered myself. And I don't know if I can offer that again. I'm going to try to. But it was so much. It was so much. It felt like too much in the moment, which is why. And I tried to accept. I tried to surrender. But it was all temporary, and then I would be striving, grasping some foothold. If I offer myself so that I can be shown the things that are inhibiting me, I feel like all of the things that I was grasping for are those things that were inhibiting me. Now I realized I think this, and in the moment I did not realize that until the end, because in the moment they were like the only things that I thought were maintaining any sort of level of sanity or connectedness or self, really. That was the only thing that was maintaining a sense of self.